Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about network ports and protocols. So if you're going to be doing any type of networking in your IT career, you're going to need to know what they are and what they are used for. All right, so we're going to start out talking about network ports. So we have our definition here. So network ports are logical endpoints for communication between devices on a network. They are identified by numbers ranging from 0 to 65,535. So each port is associated with a specific service, such as HTTP, port 80, FTP, port 21, and SSH, port 22. So you've probably seen these ports, so if you've ever done anything like set up an FTP server or connect to an FTP site, you've probably used port 21, and then HTTP for websites uses port 80, and of course HTTPS uses port 443. So there are many port numbers that are reserved for certain functions, like the FTP and HTTP, and there are a lot of leftover ports. So if you're ever setting up a connection and you need to assign it a custom port number, just make sure it's something that's not in use before you do so. Okay, so how these ports work. When a device sends a packet of data over a network, it specifies a port number in the header of the packet. This tells the receiving device which service on the destination device should handle the packet. So these ports are used for a variety of purposes, such as identifying services, such as FTP and so on. So they're used to identify the different services that are running on a computer or network device. This allows multiple services to run on the same device without interfering with each other. So that's why it's important to use unique port numbers on your computer and on your network. Okay, and then if you're going to be doing any work on firewalls, you need to know that these ports are used for filtering traffic. So they use the port numbers to filter the traffic. And they could also be used to block unauthorized access to certain services or protect devices from malware. So ports are also used in load balancing, where they can distribute traffic across multiple servers based on port numbers. This can improve the performance and reliability of applications. So you might be using some type of load balancing servers, and they're all using their unique port number, and you can't tell the difference on your end, the end user end, that it's actually hitting all these different servers to balance the load of the processes that you're running. Okay, so now we have a chart of the common port numbers here. So you might recognize some of these. We have FTP again, SNMP, HTTPS, RDP for remote desktop, Telnet, VNC, and so on. All right, so now let's move on to protocols. So protocols are a set of rules and standards that govern how devices communicate with each other over a network. They define the format of the data packets, how packets are routed to their destination, and how errors are handled. So without network protocols, it would be impossible for devices on a network to communicate with each other. So we need these network protocols to communicate on the internet and the network. So they allow devices from different manufacturers with different operating systems to communicate with each other, and also allow devices to communicate over different types of networks, such as local area networks and wide area networks, and also the internet. So here we have some examples of different types of protocols. So we have the transport protocols. So these define how data is transferred between devices, such as TCP and UDP. You've probably heard of those. Then we have routing protocols. So these define how packets are routed to their destination, such as OSPF and BGP. Open shortest path first and border gateway protocol. And then we have some link layer protocols. So these define how packets are transmitted over a physical medium, such as Ethernet and Wi-Fi. Okay, so now let's open up a command prompt and see if we could see what ports are being used on this particular computer. All right, so type in CMD to open the command prompt. Then we're going to use the netstat command, so netstat space -n. So if we could see here what's going on, there's a lot of information with the IP address. And when you have the IP address colon, then the numbers after that are the port number. So these are the port numbers in use. Some are waiting, some are established, some have been closed. So depending on what your computer is doing, they're going to be using these specific ports, such as 443, most likely being used with our web browsers to go to a secure website. So that's a good way to see what's going on with your ports. Okay, and then if you run the same command with a -s, you'll see some protocol information here. Go back up to the top here. So for IPv4, packets received, IPv6 statistics, ICMP, TCP statistics for IPv4, and for v6, UDP statistics, and so on. This may or may not be useful to you unless you're really getting into the nitty-gritty networking stuff, but I just wanted to show you that command real quick. All right, so there is your brief overview of network ports and protocols. So hopefully that makes sense and it gets you one step closer to being a proficient network administrator.